So I'm gonna give you five coding tips that I think could help you out as a beginner. So first thing first, I think coding is definitely like an art. It's not something that's very linear. So you cannot just go to uni, do a computer science course, learn data structure, algorithms, how things work, server, client, how internet works, these type of things, and expect to get a job. That just is not gonna happen, and that kind of proves even more how this field is so unorganized at the moment. There is no one application that you can learn and be really good at it and then expect to get a job one day. So it's or just be able to compete with other programmers. That's not gonna happen. So you need to make sure that whenever you're learning anything in coding, just take it with a pinch of salt. It's definitely an art. It's not linear. Things are not tightly coupled. It's very unorganized, which is why you see a lot of people just going their way. Someone's learning the X, someone's learning Y. This is because there is no one authority or or anyone telling you, hey, go learn this, read these books. That's not the case in this field. So you need to always and always remember that it's just like an art. um, there is going to be things in the system itself that people are going to understand, and you're going to question yourself, how the hell does that person know that? It's because, like I said, it's an art. You can't just technically go forward in a logical way and expect to find solutions. That does not happen a lot. It does happen in the beginning, but as you get more experience, it definitely becomes something where it's more intuition work. So keep that in mind. It's like a painting a picture. It kind of starts like a mess, but gotta make sure that the foundation is right. But it's definitely not something so logical. It might sound logical, but then end up being like a complete art, or it ends up um, starting completely unstructured, or and then ends up being something that turns into art later on. So you gotta make sure that is in your mind all the time, even when you're learning a new framework. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes you're gonna have documentation that are really organized. That just means they're trying to help you, and when you actually dig into it, the structure they have laid out for you is probably not gonna work. You're gonna skip straight to XY section only because you don't want to follow the conventional the list of contents. You don't want to start from top to bottom. You just want to go in randomly and follow any chapter that's relevant to you. That kind of proves even more that you can't just do things step by step. So that's advice number one. Secondly, this is something that goes around a lot. People do give you advice. People do tell you, learn this, learn that. Let's be honest, they are doing that to get you into their email list, to get you to subscribe, and then eventually sell you a product. If there is a person who tells you, which I can straight away, um, the only way to become a better programmer is to code regularly. You just close your eye and trust that person, because that's a piece of advice that never changes. Someone goes around, tells you just go learn this framework, everything will be okay. That's not going to happen. It never happens. So just make sure that um, you you just trust that person, and they have your best in their mind. Coding regularly is definitely one piece of advice that is solid, and it'll always stand the test of time. So just if you can code regularly, that's a big plus. If you code for a couple hours a day, or even couple half an hour, it adds up eventually. Obviously, as you go down the line, you're gonna have to spend more and more hours as your application gets more complicated. You're gonna need that intense hours to regular intense hours. You need to put that in to just have that focus to solve a bit more problematic stuff. But just coding regularly does kind of put you ahead of most people, because they don't code regularly, and by the time they code again, they have forgotten what they did, and their structure is it's just a mess eventually, and then they wonder why they're not making any progress. This is just because whatever they did a week before or a couple of days before, they've forgotten it, and that mental model they had in their mind is just gone now. And then they have to rebuild that mental model, and then if they don't code for a couple of days again, it's gone again. So do code regularly. That's tip number two. um, okay. And I this third one is kind of funny because a lot of people will be opposing to this. It's because they have this bad thing in they have this they don't think very good about the money and how you earn money, and whether you should earn money through your passion. And if you're someone who just wants to earn money, this is the field for you. You should definitely join coding. You should write websites, applications, whatever you want to do. Why not get in this field to make money? There's no problem with that. At the end of the day, we are working because we want to make money. Yeah, there is people who really love coding, um, but that doesn't mean anything, right? Yes, they love coding. You don't love coding. You're still coding. You're better than them. What's your problem? You're still making money. So if you want to get in this field to make money, you're more than welcome. Do get in, get better, get competent, compete with other people, get in a good company, make a lot of money. Good for you. So it's no problem getting in the field for money. So do get in, you're welcome. Um, fourth piece of advice is to think about what you're doing actually. If you are someone who's just starting off, you need to make sure that most of your time is spent writing the code, and it's not spent taking advice or learning things. It should be spent writing it. Should be spent building applications. That's for sure, 100%. Um, if you divide your time 50-50, that's going to be bad. 50% of the time spent learning, 50% of the time spent coding. Um, that'll straight off put you in a bad position. Or you could put it other way around. I don't know. 60% time learning, 40% coding. That's still bad. It should be a bit more unbalanced than that. You should be learning very, very little. You should be reading and watching very little tutorials and writing code most of the time. So it should more be like 80% of the time writing actual code, just grinding, just trying to figure out what you want to build and actually building it and just sticking to it for a couple of months. Then yeah, you want to learn something, fine, be it. It could, for example, be like 4 hours a day writing code and then half an hour learning something new. That's a good way to go about it, in my opinion, and I think everyone should follow this advice because it does help you in the long term, and you're not stuck in that tutorial hell people call it. So make sure there's a good imbalance there when you write code. Most of the time should be spent working, writing code, and very little time trying to learn, and that'll put you ahead of other people simply because they're stuck in the phase where they're just learning for entertainment. They might get that adrenaline rush or a dopamine rush that they're making progress. Watching videos is not making progress most of the time. Watching video or watching tutorials should be done at minimal. Obviously, people making tutorials are going to tell you otherwise, but it's not what happens in the real world. Then the last tip I have for you is to make sure you don't skip the fundamentals, because what's happening these days in the industry is quite funny. Everything's overhyped. Blockchain, Web3, Web4, whatever you want to call it, artificial intelligence, anything that's new, that's going to be trendy, that's anything that's going to be fun to write about, things that journalists are hyping up. Maybe it's out there, but you gotta make sure that you don't skip the fundamental stuff only because people are trying to sell you the things that may explode in future. Web3 is a good example. Um, if you wanna get into Web3, you gotta make sure you understand how web works, right? Common sense. You gotta make sure you have done some computer science course. You understand how algorithms works, data, how what type of data structures there are, how they are organized, when they are useful. Maybe not if they're like maybe not the comparison between data structures or algorithms, which one's faster, which one's not, but you gotta understand what they are. That's all traditional stuff. However, if you are picking up Web3, all that's gonna be skipped, and they're gonna go straight into X, Y, Z framework. Just learn that framework and you're good, which is not true. That's not gonna happen. You have to make sure that whatever technology you learn is uh, follows some sort of traditional standards, right? Web3 does follow the standards, but this term Web3 is very marketing stuff. So if you want to learn Web3, you might join a course, and that course is gonna be very marketing heavy. So it's not gonna teach you the fundamentals. So if you're a newbie, you know nothing about how web developments work, what the hell is the database, how the data is structured, how you should design a database, how you should um, organize your code, and you haven't worked on anything. If you're someone who just like, okay, Web3, let's learn Web3 because X, Y, and Z people say so, you are gonna be in problem, and you're not gonna get nothing. You're not gonna get a job. Obviously, they're gonna ask you questions that are 99% is just traditional stuff. And if you have skipped all that because you did this, because you got caught up into this Web3 course, you're gonna just fail the interview. So make sure you keep that in mind. Try to ignore the overhyped stuff for at least until you understand the fundamentals of technology. Web3 is nothing without Web2. Web2 is nothing about Web1. Whatever, however you want to call it. What you don't want to do is skip the basic stuff just because the new, fresh, trendy stuff is looking promising. So keep that in mind. So that's it.